So, circuit classification is another method for de-anonymization of TOR. In this, we basically classified the 5 circuits. There are 5 types of circuits: the client IP, client RP, HSIP, HSRP, and general circuits. How this is done is that the attacker is monitoring thousands of circuits, and he wants to know which are the targeted ones. And if he gets to know those circuits, then he can recognize the presence of hidden service activities or on either the client or server end, and can also identify the circuits used in these communications. So for this purpose, some properties of the circuits were observed, and following are the observations which helped us to achieve this technique. The first one being the outgoing versus the incoming cells. So following some of the observations made, if the outgoing cells were 3 and the incoming cells were greater, then it was probably the HSIP circuit. If the outgoing cells were greater and 3 cells, and the outgoing and incoming cells were equal, then it was the client IP circuit. Similarly, if the outgoing cells were greater and the incoming cells were less, then it was the HSIP. If the outgoing cells were less and the incoming cells were greater, then it was the circuit IP. Here we see the lifespans, as it is mentioned here that the lifespans of all the circuits are not the same. The client IP does not remain active for a long time, and it only remains active till it performs its communication function between the client and the hidden services, and so it deactivates very quickly. Whereas the client RP and HSRP have a medium of 600 seconds, and they can remain alive afterwards. Now coming to the construction sequence of cells. Here by construction sequence we mean that there is a string of -1 and +1, where -1 represents the outgoing cells and +1 represents the incoming cells. And it was observed that the sequence of construction of these cells helped in distinguishing the circuits, because in client RP the sequence could be of such +1 -1 +1 -1 +1 -1, which was not found in the HSIP circuits. So considering all of these observations, they were then applied in this procedure, where first the IP circuits were eliminated. They were first identified because these were the easiest circuits to be identified. So they were first identified, and after that the client RP circuits were identified. As mentioned earlier, the client RP construction sequence of cells were very different from the HSRP, so they were distinguished from one another. And after that, the only 2 circuits left were the HSRP and the general circuits. And we know that the incoming cells were less than the outgoing cells in HSRP, so these 2 cells were also differentiated. This procedure was performed and it attained 98% accuracy rate.